And let's recap real quick the event today that happened March 21st. So Apple announced several new products, but they began with their new environmental push. They want to get 100% renewable energy for their company. And then they talked about some health improvement, iOS 9.3, some of the smaller stuff. One of the biggest products initially that they actually pushed out was the new Apple Watch and its bands. So there's a new nylon band, 4 interwoven nylon layers, nothing too crazy. Talked a little bit about how popular the Apple Watch has been. It's #1. There are the nylon bands. They look pretty cool. I'm going to show them to you in person once I get my hands on them. But there is that new black Milanese loop as predicted as well. So nothing too crazy, but a small update just as expected to the Apple Watch. And probably the best news surrounding this topic is the fact that it's going down to $299. So this thing will start $300, which Best Buy has been selling for a while now at that price, but that's good. Next up, they talked a little bit about TV and the new TV OS. It's going to have a few new features such as Siri search in the App Store, folders for all of your applications and games and the like. So little updates to the Apple TV software itself, and it'll support live photos. So then we get to the iPhone, and this is the highlight of the event. We all expected a smaller iPhone, and that's exactly what we got. So Apple introduced the new iPhone SE. Yeah, it sounded funny, but that's exactly what Apple called it, and it now comes in that new rose gold color. Basically, this thing looks almost identical to the 5S. It still has the glass on the back, but now it has matte chamfered edges, so it's the most powerful 4-inch iPhone ever. In a move I was very surprised by, Apple stuck the A9 chip inside of it. It was previously rumored that an A8 could make its way in there, but Apple went all out and they put the 6S internals into this smaller iPhone, which will be so good. There is a smaller display, less pixels to push. I bet this thing will outperform a 6S. It's 2 times faster CPU-wise than the 5S, 3 times in terms of GPU. It also has hands-free Siri, just like the 6S. Battery life is fantastic, definitely better by about 25% than the 5S, and in general, Apple really put a lot of effort into this. I was very surprised by that. Getting to the camera, this thing actually got the fully fledged 12 megapixel sensor from the 6S, meaning it now has True Tone Flash, 4K video focused pixels, all of it. No optical image stabilization, but hey, for a smaller, cheaper phone, that is fantastic. And thanks to the same sensor, this thing can actually capture 4K and slow motion, so 240 frames per second and live photos. So live photos are just going to be tap on hold on the display, because it doesn't have 3D touch. Now, getting to wireless, this thing isn't quite as fast as the 6S. It's only capable of 150 megabits download speed. The 6S is capable up to 300. Other than that, it's pretty much, very similar. So there's already a difference in the LTE speeds and not as many bands. This thing also does have Touch ID, of course, but now that Touch ID includes NFC, so you can do Apple Pay. That new NFC chip and secure element has been included, and you can go ahead and buy things with your phone in many different countries. So to sum it all up, this thing is in every right a 6S, just a smaller version of it. The only differences I've seen is basically it's not as fast in LTE capability, doesn't have as many bands, and it doesn't have 3D touch. Now, Apple wasn't clear whether this had Touch ID 2nd generation like the 6S does, but in every other way, it looks like a 6S in a 5S form factor. And the most impressive bit is this thing will start at just $399. That was really impressive. We thought it would start at $550, but $399 is incredible. 16 gigabyte base storage, 64 gigabyte available at $500. So this matches the lineup. Basically, this thing is the most powerful 4-inch phone ever, and it'll begin on March 21st pre-orders. Then it'll ship on March 31st. I'll be sure to cover everything you need to know about it in case you were interested. And that brings us to iOS. Apple talked about iOS briefly, how the latest iOS 9 version was adopted on 80% of their devices versus Android just 2%. Now, iOS 9.3 drops today. It's supposed to be available very, very soon. They basically recap the features. It will be available with Night Shift, how it'll make you sleep better, and the whole color temperature deal with their products. On iPads available, on iPhones, it will be available on all 64-bit devices and above, no older devices. There will, of course, be secure notes where you'll be able to lock them with a passcode or Touch ID, and they just listed all the other features. A lot of stuff that we already know about. That should drop later today. And I just wanted to mention that iOS 9.3 is a huge huge update, and it's something you should definitely consider if you don't care about jailbreaking or anything like that. It'll speed up a lot of the older devices while providing over 40 new features on existing iPhones. Even if you have a new one, there's a lot to explore, and I do a whole review of it in other videos. So getting to the iPads, Apple actually announced a new iPad today as well, and I'm a little bit confused because Apple's never been good with the names for the iPads, and they just called it the iPad Pro, so I'm assuming it's called the iPad Pro 9.7. It's an iPad Pro 12.9 inch in every way except a smaller form factor, and it's actually better in some ways. Now, this is Apple's most popular size for the iPad, so of course they want to have some exclusive features on it, but I think they were getting a little overzealous when they were claiming this thing is better than computers and Windows PCs. I mean, certainly anyone can see that's really not the case. This thing cannot replace a Windows PC at the moment for all the applications you use and all that. But getting to the features, it has a better display, better color, lower reflectivity, it has a new TFT oxide display, it's brighter, so this thing has an incredible display. Apple was very proud of, they made very clear, they talked a lot about it. But better than that, it actually supports the new Apple Pencil. So with that new display, any artist, any person that works with a tablet with drawing will be able to use that in incredible ways. It also includes a true tone display. So I was a little confused about this for a little, but this thing is basically night shift, but better. It uses two new sensors implemented in the display in order to adjust the iPad to your surroundings and the color temperature more accurately. And Apple certainly didn't hold back when it comes to performance. They put the iPad Pro inside of this thing. Now, in terms of CPU, this thing will receive the A9X chip, bringing it up to par with the iPad Pro, maybe even outperforming it since it has slightly less pixels to push. But Apple didn't really talk about RAM, so it might have 4 gigabytes of RAM, it might have 2, it might have 3, we really don't know yet until that becomes a little bit more clear with some research. But Apple is very proud of the performance you can get out of it. They even claimed it outperforms an Xbox 360 in GPU performance, so it's getting really high up there. We are really entering the console era. In terms of accessories, we've got the new Apple Smart Keyboard cover in the iPad Pro 9.7 inch size, and of course that Apple Pencil. I'm so happy Apple made this thing support it, because it would be, kind of a cheap shot to make it iPad Pro exclusive to this. So now you really do get a fair choice choosing between the displays. There's new adapters for SD cards and camera adapters. They've been made better and faster, and Apple started to talk about the camera. So the camera on the iPad Pro, it actually jumps out of the body. It protrudes more than an iPhone 6s or 6s Plus camera does, but they did stuff what appears to be the 12 megapixel sensor from the iPhone 6s inside of it, which we all know is a fantastic camera. As a result, this thing can do 4K video capture, slow motion, and it even has a new flash unit with True Tone flash. It also does have that front facing flash, so True Tone is both on the front and rear. 5 megapixel camera on the front. Overall, I'm very proud of this thing. It seems like definitely a worthy successor to the iPad Air 2, and I'll be doing a full comparison and review on that. It's the first iPad to come in the new rose gold color option as well, so nice beautiful new colors on the iPad. And what I noticed is that the LTE iPad has a new antenna band, which looks really cool. I'll show you in just a little bit. It's very iPhone 7-esque based on the leaked designs. By the way, this is the very first iPad or Apple product to offer a 256 gigabyte storage option, which is awesome, and that's also being available on the iPad Pro today as well. So this thing will be available to pre-order just like the SE on the 24th of March, and it will ship and be available in stores on March 31st. So it starts at a very reasonable price, and it's great that it goes up to such high storage options. So I'm glad that Apple didn't neuter this thing in order to sell more iPad Pros. I'm going to be doing a full comparison of every iPad, and I'll be comparing this thing to the iPad Air 2 if you were at all interested in seeing what the actual differences were. So stay tuned for that one. But overall, taking a look at today's events, seems like Apple's making some good progress. I was a bit disappointed Apple didn't release or talk about any progress in MacBooks. The future, sure, is these smaller little products, but for professionals, we need something. Apple, give us something, anything for the MacBooks, the computer lineup. But what really stood out to me today was the iPhone SE and its entry-level price point. $400 is a very reasonable sum for such a feature-packed phone, and I think this thing is going to be incredibly popular. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. just a little recap of today's event. I'll be sure to include product reviews for all of these, so stay tuned for all the videos on that, iPhone SE and iPad Air or iPad Pro 9.7 in particular. Have a great day. Peace.